just about.
I actually have a question.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
On the marking criteria, it says we need to use one page for the infographic and three for the explanation. Do we put the infographic on the first page or last page?
It make the first page. It makes sense to put it on the first page.
Right. Okay. I think there's also some questions in the chat. You might want to have a look at them.
Okay, thanks. Let's see. Great. Yeah, we put the check-in code in earlier, but yeah, I guess if you joined after, but somebody's put that up. Brilliant. Thanks, Ewan. So, should we only include information from the article infographic? For example, if I found information on PubMed built on the topic, will I lose marks for adding it instead? No, you certainly wouldn't lose marks. I hope that, so Daniel, I hope that when I was discussing the use of figures, hopefully that answered that question somewhat. So primarily the infographic is to be based on that one paper, and the reason for that is that they're already quite complex papers. So when you start to include information from other sources, you'd have to sort of sacrifice perhaps some information from your primary paper to include that of another paper. So certainly, I think use different examples of images to kind of inspire how you're building your own infographic, but those will have to be cited. And I think an example you've written there, if there's an absolutely key part missing from the pathway that bringing in another source can help you do, absolutely that's fine to do. So you definitely won't lose marks for it. It's just really important to be transparent in what you're using. So your infographic will have references associated with it, and it's important to include that. So the bulk of it should be from one paper, but I'd be happy if you found key elements from other sources to help, I guess, make the infographic more robust and more accurate. Just make sure referencing is there, so we know what you've used. Because what would happen is, if you haven't referenced it and we don't know you've used a second source, when we look at the infographic, there'll be information on there that we know isn't from that paper. So it has to be clear that you've used an additional source for that, but it's fine to do that.
Okay, if that makes sense. Does that also apply to the written work, or is that, what I mean is, will most of our references be based on the article we write about, or am I also going to need to add, I don't know, between 5 and 10 references from PubMed?
Yeah, so it's a really good point actually. So your written component needs to be with wider reading. So you won't just be summarizing that one paper that your infographics from. You definitely need to take in more papers to do your written part. So that there might be areas that you want to elaborate upon. So the disease, what happens with disease, what happens in tissue damage, or any other element that you might find, and you need to seek out other papers to help discuss that. So yeah, you want to look at, for your written part, for that amount of text, you certainly want to look at between 5 and 10 other sources of information, 5 to 10 other papers to include for that.
Perfect, thank you.
So, Charlotte, do you think it's better to write the summary before making the infographic or after? It's up to you. It depends how, I guess it depends how it makes it easier for you to understand it. Personally, I would do the infographic first, because if you notice when we went through that the paper that I looked at, it doesn't do things in chronological order. It kind of jumps between initiating and stimulus, and then it jumps into molecules involved in that, and it goes back and forth a little bit. So personally, from that information that I took out of that paper, I would construct images of these little events almost independently, and once I have them on the page, I could rearrange them into the order that's happening chronologically, and then you have the base for your infographic, and then I would I'll do my text description based on my infographic as opposed to based on the paper. The reason for this is that if you do your summary first, you're basically just summarizing that paper, which is not what the purpose of this exercise is to do. You're writing text to support your infographic. So if you just summarize the paper, that's what you're doing, a review of a review basically. If you draw your infographic first, then you're summarizing your infographic rather than summarizing the paper. Does that make sense? So Daniel, another question. Does the infographic have to connect, or can I split it into 3 sections covering advertisers? So there's points where they do connect. If there was no evidence of there being any connection, it's fine to do 3 distinct pathways. But if there are connections, it's important to represent them. Joe's a good infographic that you can share as an example. So there's a number of examples on Moodle of infographics to have a look at.
Sorry, I've got one more question. When it comes to designing the infographic, can we take images from the internet and add it in, or is it better for us to essentially create our own sort of stuff?
Yeah, you're better off creating your own. Have you used that software before that we're recommending to use, a BioRender? Have you seen that before?
I've not. I normally use PowerPoint or Draw.io.
So I don't know the second software you mentioned, but have a look at BioRender because it's pretty comprehensive. We've used it before in the past for published work, and it's excellent actually. It has graphical representation of pretty much all that you would need. So I'd definitely go there first. If there's really something that it doesn't have, a structure that it doesn't have that you want to represent, you can draw your own, or put in something found elsewhere. The only reason not to is that it will make the image look slightly less professional. While BioRender, because it'll all be done in the same sort of format, it'll look a bit more professional. But if it doesn't have what you need, then it's fine to use other sources.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Any more questions for me? So we'll leave it there then. So thanks for coming along. So during the next couple of weeks, if you do have any questions, so the coursework Padlet is still open. If it's something that you feel is a general question that others could benefit from the answer to, please just add to there. But anything else, also feel free to email me with questions. I'll respond as best I can. What's his class? So it wasn't recorded, Pedro. Sort of purposely so, because I went through one of the papers that is an option to use. I think I'd be giving away a bit too much if it was recorded and then everyone could use my own design plans. So no, it wasn't recorded. Great, so we'll leave it there then if there's no more questions. And yeah, as I said, feel free to get in touch with any questions over the next couple of weeks. Good luck, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye. Oh, do you have another question, Pedro? Oh, great. All right. Bye, everyone.